This is episode 52. June is busting out all over this island. It is absolutely glorious. Last time we were together, I was talking to you and showing you some photos of all the daffodils up on Clayhead Trail. Well, we've gone from yellow to purple, and now it just seems everything is pink. And so I hope you enjoyed that opening video. I was showing you a number of things. We have cosmos now growing in our garden. We've got a beautiful rhododendron bush, which was fast becoming a rhododendron tree in the front. And also my friend Mary Lou, who you saw in my last video, gave me some beautiful lily of the valley from her mother's garden. And it's been under our front deck for years because it likes shade. And I'll tell you a little bit about the project that we're going to be involved in pretty soon underneath our front deck. And in order to accomplish that project, I needed to dig up those lily of the valley and move them into the secret garden. But I wanted you to see that lily of the valley is a beautiful pink blush color. Usually they're white. And my friend said she didn't remember them being pink in her mother's garden, but they're this gorgeous pink, and I brought them in and we put them in our bedroom. I mean, the ones that I cut, I brought into the bedroom, and I wanted you to see this. These are dried. Can you see that? Well, I had them upstairs in our bedroom for the smell, and they smelled glorious. And then they dried, and they stayed pretty much in their shape, and they still smell absolutely gorgeous. So I'm letting them dry, and as I continue to move them, the flowering part of the plant is already done. But as I move them, I'm going to be thinking about next year what I can do with maybe some of these beautiful dry. Can I use them in sachets? I don't know that they're something I can turn into a tea. I really have to do some research. But that was from one little bouquet that I brought into the house, and it smells so beautiful. So we had the lily of the valley, which was this lovely pink, the rhododendron, the cosmos, and pretty soon all the wild roses will be opened on the island. And my husband and I went for a walk this morning, and you could already smell the roses. The Rosa rugosa on the beaches have opened. So it's just beautiful. Now, it is still very fickle weather on the island and in New England. So it's going to be nice for us this morning because we don't have any planes coming in because of the fog. So that's nice and quiet, but it's very heavy fog. It's very misty, and it's a good day for me to be chatting with you and talking about knitting and gardening and cooking. So also in that opening video, we took you to our favorite little garden shop, the Farmer's Daughter, and I tried to show you what's inside some of those Quonset huts and the little gift shops. It's just so beautiful. It's such an inspiration. And I feel like if you want to get a real quality plant, I get a lot of my plants from Home Depot and sometimes from Job Lot, and I've bought basil at Stop and Shop before. But because we were going to expand our vegetable garden, the only vegetables I've ever planted before have been tomatoes and red onions and peppers, jalapeno peppers, and the rest have been herbs and flowers. But we really wanted to try to grow more vegetables and had to think about how are we going to do that. So one of the things we did is we bought 2 by 8 foot cedar raised beds. And my husband put them together. We put them on the back deck. I had a 2 by 4, so we kept the 2 by 4, the 2 by 8s. And I needed to know, like, what am I going to use for soil? I mean, it was really all new to me. So did some research. I bought 2 kinds of soil, and I'm showing you the 2 bags. Both were organic. One of those soils was a Miracle Grow organic, no peat, because I guess when you do a raised bed, you don't really want to hold too much of the water. And all of the green material used in that Miracle Grow soil comes within a 150-mile radius of the location where you purchased it. So it's local compost and local soil. The other product I bought, I did get at the Farmer's Daughter, our favorite little garden shop. And it comes from Maine, and it has lobster and crab meal and kelp. So I feel like the combination of those two soils are going to give these plants and these vegetable plants the best start that we could give them. So I did buy the plants at the Farmer's Daughter. I got half of the soil there, and I had a great conversation with one of the employees there, and she gave me some really good advice. And she also suggested that I also plant some sweet alyssum in with some of those trellis plants. So that would be the beans and the cucumbers and the peas, because those plants will flower, and it's going to take a little while for them to flower. And the alyssum is already flowering now, and it will already begin to attract the pollinators. And I've already seen bees, and we already have bees on the rhododendron, and the lavender is just starting to open. So this is going to bring them and invite them to start pollinating on that back deck. So then when the flowers from the vegetables, the tomatoes and all the other vegetables start to flower, they'll already know to be there. So we went through some of those little Quonset huts, and I showed you some of the photos of the beauty. They're just so, their design, whoever does their design, whoever is decorating those little gift shops and those Quonset huts knows exactly what they're doing. One of those Quonset huts will be for, let's say, plants that need high humidity. And then another one may just be for hanging baskets. And then there's one that's just shade plants. And then there's the vegetables. And it's incredible. If you live in Rhode Island or Massachusetts or Connecticut, and you're looking to come to Southern Rhode Island to spend a day, check out the Farmer's Daughter. Okay, so now I'm showing you some photos and some video of the process of getting those gardens done. So my husband put them together. I had bought some beeswax, liquid beeswax to rub into the cedar. And the purpose of that was to protect the wood from rain. And it did a great job. You could see the rain beating right up as soon as I used it. So that is something I will try to do maybe once a year. And then, of course, we put the soil in and we planted. And I am thrilled. It has been, I think that was like the week before Memorial Day. So it was like maybe that Tuesday of Memorial Day weekend that we went off and we bought the plants. We had rainy weather, so we couldn't put it together. So it's been maybe only maybe just 2.5, 3 weeks since we planted. And you can see how happy everybody is. So I'm looking forward to being able to, I'm already using some of the lettuce leaves. I can open up my kitchen door. I can pick some lettuce. I can pick the parsley already. Soon, hopefully, I'll have the cherry tomatoes and Roma tomatoes and beans and peas and cucumbers. And so I started a garden journal. And I think that is something I have been thinking about doing for a while. I kept it separate of my regular journaling because I want to be able to go back next year and say, what worked? Here's that little sketch that I used to kind of imagine what I wanted to put in those raised beds. And I'm just making a note. What was the weather? What were the conditions? What soil did I use? What plants did I use? And would I use it again? Like I've already lost 2 of my lettuce plants. So we'll just see how that's going to go. All right, enough garden talk. Okay, so let's get into the knitting. So I mentioned last episode that I was trying to use up all these leftover fingering weight yarns that I have. And you saw the shawl I made for my mother. That was all leftover yarn. This is linen quill fingering. This is the Pearl Soho linen quill fingering weight yarn. I've used it for the half and half shawls. And so I have a lot of it left over. And I have some other fingering weight yarns that I wanted to use. So like from socks or from, so I started to show you this last episode. I think I had just put on like the first maybe couple of inches, but I am just loving this. And I want to show you this really cute, I'm going to lean this into you a little bit. Let's see. I'll take it off so you can see. You see this little pin? It's not really a pin, it's a magnet. So my friend Mary Lou gave this to me. Let's see, here we go. Where's the back? It's a starfish, and it's a magnet. And can I tell you, this will hold. So I just thought that would be a really cute way to keep, one of these knitted shawls on. I've used it with a sarong. It's so, I don't know where she got this, but isn't that the sweetest? And you don't have to worry about putting a pin or a stick pin through, which I have done too. And you have to really make sure you get in and you don't hurt the stitches when you do that. But I love this. So anyway, I'm going to use that. So here it is. If you recall, I had leftover yarn from a sock project. This was the leftover yarn from my Alpine Bloom, this white. And also from my Alpine Bloom, this beautiful variegated yarn. And I had some random skeins of probably sock yarn or other projects from over the years of all these blues. And I think this is just gorgeous. Now, I'll include again the pattern that inspired me. I didn't stick right with the pattern. The pattern was supposed to be every 2 rows you change the yarn color. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Every 2 rows, change the color, have an end. It looks beautiful when you see the photo of the pattern, but I just didn't want to do that. So I just sort of went, you know, if I had a lot of the yarn, this is a whole skein. I must have been, bought 3 skeins to make the socks or whatever. So this was a whole skein, leftover, and I just kept going. And I think it's absolutely a great way to use those leftover. And I'm also showing it to you on the blocking mat. I wasn't sure if I was going to do that picot edging that the pattern calls for, that I also did on Mom's, but I did, and I think it just looks beautiful. What do you think? Isn't that gorgeous? So I mentioned to you last episode that we have shallow waters around the island and a lot of sand. And so we get this very Bermuda blue kind of color, and we have the nickname of being the Bermuda of the North. So I'm calling this my Bermuda of the North shawl. And I just love this dark almost navy that's in here as well. So fingering weight yarn. Okay, staying on that fingering weight, reimagine, reuse subject. So these 3 yarns right here are all linen quilt. This navy was from my half and half triangle shawl. Okay, I had a skein of that left over. I had made a half and half triangle shawl with these 2 colors. And when I first saw the yarn together, I said, oh, I'm gonna love that. But I didn't love it as a shawl. I don't know why. I think I needed a softer, I don't know, I just didn't like the 2 together, so I ripped it all out. So I have, I think 3 skeins. So I said, okay, I like that. And a couple of years ago, my cousin and I went to this little gift shop that's no longer open, but it was a wonderful day spent with my cousin, and we went to the, not gift shop, yarn shop, and I bought a single skein of unique fingering, and here it is. It was just 1 skein, and I bought the little pattern that came with it, but I never used it, and when I looked at the little pattern, it was a lacy little scarf, and I just didn't love it. But now, look at this. You seeing it? Okay, so I've had this on my mind. I didn't want to make another shawl. After making the shawl for my my friend, and then making my mother's, I just didn't have it in me to make another shawl. So I thought, I want to make a summer top. Okay. Right around the time I'm having these thoughts and I'm looking at this yarn and I know I want to use these colors, I get I guess it was an email, because I follow Pearl Soho. And they are showing us this new design. It's called the End to End, and it's a summer top. So now, again, this is, I think, 2 rows of each color. And I'm showing you a picture of the pattern. I love the design, but again, I did not want to be changing yarn every 2 rows. I just didn't want to do it. So I'm doing my own color choices. And this is the center. Can you see that? So I started with, you start with the sleeve. You start right here. You start at the edge of the sleeve and you work your way over. At the same time, you're increasing to come around to the shoulder. And then you're also going to cast on the stitches for the body. So I think you want to spend some time really thinking about how you want this to fit, because you're only going to get one chance to put the length on because you're working from side to side. So I decided what I wanted for length, and I decided how big I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to be oversized. Now the pattern shows the back in a solid color, and I have enough of this raspberry to make the back in raspberry, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to try to mimic this side with this side, and it's so visual, it's going to be easy enough for me to do. So this is my center point, and when I get to my next round of this orange, I will start making the increases to come up around the shoulder and the neck. And then I'm sure we're going to come down, and then we're going to decrease for the body. And then the back will be easy at that point because it's all going to be in the one color. I love this. I love these colors. I think it's going to look great with white and jeans, a skirt. I'm also thinking, because I know I'm still going to have yarn left over because the linen quilt just never goes away. I mean, no matter what you knit with it, I still have. So I'm thinking I could make maybe a braided belt with some tassels, so I could wear that with high-waisted. We'll see. I think another good use for a fingering weight yarn. So it's the end-to-end, and I'll put in here, and I'll add the show notes for the link. And look how nice it looks with navy. It's going to look great with jeans. Okay, fingering weight yarn, using it up. So you might be wondering, how am I doing with my orbits? How am I doing with my book Cardi sweater? What's happening with the coat? Well, I can't really answer that. On the orbits, I was going to have to rip back because I went too small. I should have gone up on a needle size. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but if I have to sew a button on a shirt, I would almost rather just buy a new shirt. I know that sounds crazy, but there's something about that. Ripping out, that was all in color work. I got to find where I was on the chart. I'm going to do it. But those shawls, for me, it was just mindless. It's garter stitch. The end to end is just garter stitch. So that felt good. So I will get to those other projects, but in the meantime, I decided to make another ranunculus. Because again, Pearl Soho's been knocking at my door. They're just texting me and they're emailing me, and that's okay. I'm letting that happen. But they were talking about this new yarn called Morning. It's 75% organically grown cotton and 25% yak. I've never used yak, and I've had it on my mind for a while. I keep hearing it's like, a luxury yarn. If you like cashmere, you're going to love yak. It's a bit pricey, but Pearl Soho was having a sale, and I said, I'm going to give this a try. And so I decided to make myself another ranunculus. I have one. I did not get on the couldn't stop making a ranunculus bandwagon, but I knew at some point I would want to make another one. So the one I made, I've worn it before. Maybe I'll insert a photo here. I made it in a DK, and I held a mohair silk yarn. So I used the two together, and I did it in a lovely ivory, and I followed the instructions for the cropped version. I did the 3/4 sleeve, I did the cable bind off, and I wear it over the holidays. And I have high-waisted winter white slacks. I have high-waisted kind of like a faux leather in a cream color. It's gorgeous. I have to wear a camisole underneath because I did the cropped version. I've seen over the years it done in lace weight, in fingering weight, in DK, in Worcester, in Aran. I've seen it done so many different ways, and I just decided I wanted to use this cotton yak blend, not carry a mohair, not carry another yarn with it, and make myself another one, and have it for, say, this time of year where we've been in the 60s, we've had nights in the 50s, and same thing in the fall. I think this really could be a 3-season for me, for sure. So here it is, things I did different and things I want to discuss with you. I had forgotten that you have an option when you go to cast on. You can cast on for a regular neck or you can cast on for a bigger neck. And I had used the bigger neck when I did my white one, and I knew I wanted that again. And so it refers you to this YouTube channel to do this special cast on, a double cast on or something like that. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I don't know if it's my dyslexia, but I even have a problem with some of those cast-ons where I do a very traditional cast-on, and maybe I'll show you a clip, but I use both hands when I cast on. It's a long tail cast-on, and I use both hands. I don't do this thing. I've done it, I can do it, but for some reason, maybe because I never learned that as a child, it just doesn't come easily for me. So this cast-on was a combination of doing this and doing it and twisting and doing it twice. I couldn't get it. I watched 3 or 4 different videos. I couldn't get it. Are they coming behind the finger? Are they in front of the finger? And what? Finally, I found someone who did it kind of the way I do it and then just twisted the loop for the yarn. And I was like, is that really all it is? That's all it is. So I'm going to include the link, because if that has stopped you or if that has slowed you down, you're going to be so happy you know how to do this. I'll keep that in mind for other projects. So that was, one thing I did that helped my whole getting started. It's supposed to be on a size 10 needle. I went to a 9. I did my gauge. I knew what I wanted. I didn't want it to be too thin. I didn't want to have to worry about what I was wearing underneath it. I didn't want to have to wear a camisole underneath it. So I went with a size 9 needle. I cast on with a 9. The whole body is a 9. And then I switched to... I think I switched to the 10 to do the bind off. The bind off is a knit in the back of the knit stitch and then purl. Knit in the back of the knit stitch and purl. I don't remember what it's called, but I'll include that here too. And then I just did a regular cast off, a loose cast off. I didn't do an Italian. I didn't do the Jenny stretchy bind off. I just did a regular. And I made it 3/4 sleeve. I didn't use the cable. Like I did last time. I wanted this pretty rib. I like the way that knit stitch sticks up. There's a reason why this is one of the most knit patterns on Ravelry. It's fun. You can see it's not too oversized. I made it, I'll make a note, but I think I did size 1. I made the smallest size on a size needle using this yarn, which the recommended needle size for this yarn is a US 5 or 6, which is a 3.75 or a 4 millimeter needle, and I did a 9. A little bit more about this yarn. There's 191 yards. That's 100 on a 100 gram ball. It's machine wash, delicate cold, lay flat and face down to dry. It's made in Peru. So when I had it made, and again, one of the things I love about Top Down is I just kept trying it on. So as I was knitting it, I said, I don't think I'm going to wet block this, because I never wet block cotton. I just never have. I will steam it if I need to, if there's a wrinkle in it, if I need to open up some stitch work like this. And I just didn't want this to get stretched out and too big. I wanted to be able to wear this with either high-waisted jeans or regular jeans, like a lower waistline. I didn't want to always have to wear it with high-waisted. I didn't want it to be too loose. I will eventually try this on and have my husband take some photos of me. So you can see I got a very streamlined fit. These little patterning are so much fun. The pattern is written. There is a tiny chart area you can use if you want, but you don't have to. It's all written out. Midori Hiro is the, and again, I'll include all that. She's the designer. Now, I had a little trouble with the yak. At first I thought, when I was winding, I hand wound it. Sometimes I want to hand wind something so I can kind of commune with the yarn. So I hand wound the first ball. So it was early in the morning. I was having my coffee and I was winding it. I had just come back from being off island and I started to feel a little sniffy and my nose was getting itchy. And I thought, shoot, I'm getting a cold. I'm getting a spring cold. And then later in the day, I felt great. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Maybe it was just allergies. And the next morning, I'm working on the sweater, I'm casting on, I'm ripping off, I'm playing with that cast on. I'm getting sniffy again, I'm getting tingly, and my face is getting a little itchy, and I'm like, what is going on? I think I have had a little reaction to the yak. So I kept the ball in my little knitting bag. I only brought up the yarn as I needed it. I did notice on the top of my glass coffee table there was hair everywhere. However, after I steamed it, I wore it that night. I went out to dinner and I wore it and I had no problem against my skin. So I just think it was those hairs getting up into my nose maybe. Long staple. It's called Morning Pearl Soho. This color is called Dungarees Blue. I'm happy to have another ranunculus. Okay, what else did I want to tell you? Oh, let's see. Well, okay, I wanted to mention, last episode I talked about, we went to Newport for Mother's Day with my mom and my sister-in-law and my friend, Mary Lou and Cindy, and we went and we saw that little documentary of Marcella, Italian cook, and I bought the cookbook. And, you know, I don't buy a lot of cookbooks. As a matter of fact, I've given away quite a few that I have accumulated over the years. You can get everything online. However, this book, this is the 30th anniversary edition, is the culmination of 2 of her books. And I'm really enjoying this. And you know how I tell you when I focus on something, I seem to attract other things. Well, right around the same time that I went to see the documentary and then decided to order the book, Stanley Tucci, we discovered Stanley Tucci on Nat Geo, you know, the actor Stanley Tucci. He's Italian on both sides. And if you haven't seen it, and I'll put the name of it, it's been on Netflix, I believe. I think it's on Netflix. But again, I'll make sure of that. Where Stanley Tucci goes to the different regions of Italy and he explores the culture and the food. And sometimes the food is really the peasant food of the region. Sometimes it's elevated at some Michelin star restaurant, but right around the same time. So I've been a little bit going down the rabbit hole and trying to elevate my Italian cooking. So I am not Italian. However, I feel like I grew up with quite an Italian influence because my mom grew up across the street from a family that was from Italy. They had tons of kids and they had 3 daughters. And one of those daughters is actually my mother's godmother. It's kind of funny. And she's my godmother too. So, and they speak Italian, and we have traveled to Italy with 2 of these sisters, one of these sisters. And so when we first moved to Block Island, they came out to the island to teach me how to cook some of the basics. They taught me how to make a ragu, how to make a bechamel, how to make a puttanesca, and how to make a red sauce. And these 3 women did not agree on anything. So I took the best of what they said to me. Some were like, you crush the tomatoes with your hands. Some of you cut it. Some were like, you use the garlic and then you throw it out. Some were like, leave the garlic in. You cut up the olives. No, you leave the olives whole. One thing that they all agreed on was the best quality ingredients you can possibly find. Use San Marzano tomatoes. If you can grow them, grow good Roma plum tomatoes. And we had so much fun. They were here for, I think it was like 3 nights. And we cooked 1 or 2 dishes each night. We ate like kings and queens. And I have been wanting to take that to the next level. For instance, I want to make my own pizza dough. I've bought the frozen, already proofed pizza dough that you just roll out. It's okay. I'm getting acquainted with 00 flour, which is supposed to be better for our digestion. And so anyway, I've been working on that. So one of the first things I wanted to make out of Marcella's cookbook was the bolognese. So I did. And it took 4.5 hours to make. And I knew that because it's very clear in the book. But I did it with pork, 1 to 2. So one ratio pork, 2 parts, 1 part ground pork, 2 parts ground beef. She says, try to use the fattiest beef you can find. Chuck would be best, ground chuck. And what I found interesting is there was no olive oil, no garlic, no basil. And when I make this again, I will probably make it in the fall. I think it is definitely a fall winter dish because it's hearty. It took so long to cook. And another funny thing she says is serve it with fettuccine, serve it with tagliatelle, but never, ever, ever serve bolognese with spaghetti. So I bought some, you know how sometimes like in Home Goods or Marshall's, they have that food section and they have some Italian dried pastas. So I found some Durham semolina egg tagliatelle dried noodles. And so I made this for my husband. And as this was cooking, he came upstairs. He had been watching golf. He came upstairs. He said, oh my God, that smells so good. And it was incredible. It was delicious. I doubled the recipe. It has milk in it, nutmeg, wine. But no olive oil. There's butter, a lot of butter. So I can't wait to delve into my next. So the beginning of the book, there's a foreword done by Lydia, Lydia Bostonak. She owns her own restaurants. She's been on TV. She has her own show. She does the foreword. And then Marcello's husband does a foreword. And then Marcella has a little piece in here. And the beginning of the book, she really is just talking about the essentials of classic Italian cooking. That's what this whole book is about. Understanding Italian cooking. And then, she talks about basil. She talks about balsamic vinegar that, in this country, we've used balsamic vinegar quite freely. Well, in Italy, it's aged and it's something you use a little bit of. And she talks about that a little bit. Anchovies. So that's what I've been doing. So I've got on my back deck, Roma tomatoes, all these vegetables, basil, and I'm going to hopefully be really enjoying this cookbook and trying to use the freshest and the best ingredients that I can find. Okay, Mom and I had a little, I went off island, spent some time with Mom, and we decided to go to Wickford. We hadn't been there in a while. There's a new cheese shop. There's a new tea house. So we had a wonderful day in Wickford. And we had coffee and a nice little light lunch at Shayna's, which is this cute little coffee sandwich shop. We went through all the little stores. We went through this one shop is like a bath shop, and they have beautiful cotton pajamas. We just enjoyed Wickford. We went into a fabric store that had a lot of quilting fabric, and they must teach classes there. There had to have been 6 sewing machines and sergers and ironing boards, and there were a couple of people in there cutting patterns out. That was kind of fun to see. We walked through the Mermaid's Pearl. I did not buy anything. I didn't buy anything because you can kind of see where I'm at. I had ordered this online, playing with my fingering weight yarns. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. Am I going to knit some, beach bags to give as gifts? I still have cotton on these cones. And I'm going to be gardening. And right now, one of the things we are doing is we are reimagining some of our outdoor space. So you've seen some pictures of the yard, the backyard, the side yard, underneath the deck. In the backyard, we have a fire pit, an old, a stone fire pit. And with all that's been going on with forest fires, we are not going to light a fire in that fire pit. So we want to take that out. But we want to put a propane fire pit in that area. And we want to start utilizing the back of that yard a little bit. I'm not comfortable sitting out on that grass because we have deer, which means we have ticks. So we're going to have a circle, and it's going to have some stone and maybe some field stone. And so it's going to create a patio, and we're going to put that fire pit in the middle of it. So we can put some chairs and we can sit out there, and I'd like to put some pots of some herbs and some lavender, things to keep the mosquitoes away, things the deer won't eat. So I'll keep you abreast of what's going on there. And then underneath our front deck, which is the only real shade we get because our house faces north. And so we have east-west in the front yard and the backyard. So we get very little shade. So underneath this deck, you see that's where Dave's hammock is. And we have a lot of gravel. There's just gravel. There's a little platform where we walk into that door. And I usually keep a little chair and a little table there. So we're also going to have some stonework done underneath there. So again, it will be going to elevate our living spaces out in our yard. So I'm looking forward to keeping you up to date on that. So that's what's going on. Gardening, cooking, reimagining our outdoor space. And next week I'm going off and I'm going to Mom's Garden Club luncheon with her. So I'll have lots more to share with you next time we're together. Happy June, my friends. Thanks for tuning in.